Hello everyone, I am Bradley Sward, Associate Professor of Computer and Information Science at the College of DuPage in Glen Ellen, Illinois. And this video today is going to look at Advent of Code Day 18 festivities in the Python programming language. So today is math. PEMDAS rules no longer apply. These guys think they know better than us over wherever they are, and they use math in it with different precedences than we do. So in part one, we're supposed to go ahead and basically just say that everything is at the same level. Addition and multiplication is at the same level. And so I need to go through all of that data. We showed that data here. We just need to go through and figure out what does that mean. And then the only thing that confuses everything would be pretty simple, like just off the bat, if there were no parentheses like this one. If every problem had no parentheses, yeah, that would be pretty easy. But the fact that there are parentheses throws monkey wrenches into everything. And so for my first step, I just want to make sure I parse everything correctly. So basically I'm removing and just adding spaces where the parentheses are and things like that. Oh, I could have done that. Oh, well, that would have been a lot easier now that I think about it. But anyway, than what I did. But anyway, so my first step was to turn this into a list of tokens, number values, parentheses, and operations. And then from there to work down the list and say basically find where all the parentheses are, and then basically figure out how to reduce down that parenthesis into one value, and then work that down, and then work that down, and then work that down until you're left with only one value. That's the whole goal of what today is about. And so the parsing I'll describe in a second, but when it comes to the mathematics behind this, like for me, when I see this, anytime I see a closing curly brace, that means that there's going to be some equation that I can solve, that I don't have to do any extra massaging. Every time I hit a closing curly brace, I can work my way back to the opening curly brace, and I can do the math without having to think of a parentheses. So what I can do here is I can hit this closing parentheses, do the math, turn this into 24 times 9, whatever, 240, 216. I think that's 216. And then just replace all of this in my list with a 216, and then carry on and carry on and carry on and carry on until we get our answers. So that's the goal of right now. And again, I hacked this together. I am tired. Our floor flooded upstairs and it leaked down into our basement last night, and I'm just frustrated trying to get finals done, trying to have a little bit of fun with these problems at the same time while my kid is screaming upstairs. Just stuff in general. So here we go. So I took this as, okay, for every problem, open the file and get every line. And then all this here reduces everything you see into a bunch of tokens. So I start with, I wrap around everything with one more parentheses around the entire thing so that my algorithm can just continue on until there's no more parentheses to worry about. So again, this is the tokenizing here. So it says, okay, start with an opening parenthesis, and basically, if for every token in here, if there's an opening parenthesis, get rid of all of them, or at least add, just shift them over and add them to the list. Because look, this is one parenthesis, this is two. I have to parse. There could be 3 or 4 or 5, and I have to be able to parse as many as there are and put them in as individual parentheses into my list. And the same goes on the reverse. It goes parenthesis value when I'm going opening, and when I'm closing it goes value parenthesis. And where can I find, like this, and so forth and so on. So we just have to take into account this, and this code does all of that and tokenizes the whole thing. And then, as I was saying here, as long as there's a closing curly brace, there is a parenthesis, there's math to do. So this code goes ahead and basically figures out which tokens make up that equation, sends that through this function, the process list slice, which goes ahead and basically we cut off the parentheses, and we just go to town, and we just go left to right, left to right, left to right, doing the math. Because if there's 5, if the list size is 5, then I have to do 2 operations. That's what the integer math here is for. And again, I'm not doing this the Pythonic way. I'm doing this the C++ Sward way at this point. But I'm saying so index value 0 is the 9. get the next index, get the next operation. If it's a multiplication, multiply them together, get my 72, and then 216, whatever, you know, so just continue on. If it's a plus, add them together. If it's a multiply, multiply them together, move over 2 units, move over 2 units, and just continue on, and whatever value you get, return it back. And you replace this with that value, and then you just continue on as long as there are no parentheses left to deal with. And you do that for every problem, and you end up with a solution of that number there, which matches my understanding right down here. So 235 blah 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 020. So this code all together, so it's a little longer than one page here for for my hack, that gets you to part 1. And so part 2 is always something where you take what you do in part 1 and advance it, or a lot of times you just hack it together in part 1 and then you have to come up with a smarter algorithm in part 2 to be able to figure it out in a reasonable amount of time. But for this one, all I have to do is just change the way I process that list. And you can see here, my code is slightly different here. And this time around, it's the same idea where I'm going left to right, inside of parentheses here, but instead of just going left to right and just blindly just plowing through, this time around I set up an order of things. I say the pluses come before the multiplication. So this loop basically says, while there's nothing left to test out, I'm going to go ahead and find all the plus signs and do the same kind of thing where you just go, okay, if I see a plus here, take this here and replace it with a 15, and then replace this here and replace it with a 14, and then multiply them together, and so forth and so on, within whatever I have for the parentheses. So this is saying do all the pluses first, then go ahead and process through and do all the multiplications, and then when you're at the end of the day here, return the only value that's left in that slice or in the list. And otherwise, it's the exact, say all the other code is exactly the same, blah, 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 blah. It's just a matter of changing part 1 to part 2 and modifying the way I process inside of one single parentheses. And when I run that, I get this value, which is what you see here. So again, you guys have becoming really great at teaching me things, enumerates and slices and all sorts of counters and all sorts of things that I haven't encountered, zipping things and all sorts of crazy fun stuff in these last couple weeks. So if you know a better way for this, enlighten me as always, and enlighten everybody else who watches these videos. I appreciate everything you do for me. So as always, comment down below if you have comments, if you want to just have a chat, whatever you want to do. Thank you for sticking it out with me as always. Hope to see you. Hope my house is still here, so I have a day 19 I can do tomorrow. Final day of the fall 2020 semester during COVID. I am exhausted, as all my students are, I'm sure. Take it easy, everybody. Thank you. Have a good day.